Hi, I'm Laura Rolfe, host of Powered by Franchising and CEO of Mint Franchise Consultants. In the studio, I've got Kate Rolfe, my daughter and fellow franchise consultant, Kate Rolfe, and then with us on Zoom today is Jessica Shipley. She is the franchise developer for Blingle, which is part of Horsepower Brands. Now, I know we've had lots of conversations about horsepower brands in the last couple of years on the Powered by Franchising podcast. Lots of reasons why I love horsepower brands with their leadership, the support services that they provide to the franchisees, the different brands that are part of the horsepower umbrella. When I first learned of horsepower, this one, Blingle, resonated with me because of my background in event management. When I worked in nonprofit, I did lots of events, and we always seem to have holiday lighting, event lighting, etc. So please welcome Jessica to the show. Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Laura. Hi, Kate. Thank you so much for having me.
We are thrilled to have you on the show. And so you're a little bit newer to franchising, but you're not new to sales and helping buyers invest in something that is important to them. So tell us a little bit about your background, Jessica, and how you were introduced to horsepower and Blingle.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Laura. So I have been in sales for about 20 years now, which is crazy because I'm young. I started at a young age, loved it. I really spent the majority of my sales career as a retail manager for actually a store that started in Western Nebraska. It is now a national brand. It's the Buckle, if you've ever heard of it. It used to be called the Brass Buckle, but I think I started at just the right age. I actually started in 2008 at the height of the recession, and Buckle was one of the companies that actually did so well during the recession. But because I started in that time, I was able to speak to people's needs and wants in a different way. I learned so much during my career there. I was there for 11 years. I traveled, I recruited, I basically did everything that they asked me to. I got to travel to really cool places like Buffalo, New York, Boston, Massachusetts, Kansas City, Des Moines. I mean, here in the Midwest a little bit. I was everywhere. But what other companies don't teach you is that you have to figure out what a customer actually really wants. And you do that by looking at their body language, figuring out maybe if they have something going on, what they're already wearing. And so the Buckle just really laid the foundation for my sales career. Now, everything that I've ever learned from the Buckle, I have taken into every other industry that I've worked in. In 2019, I actually got started in real estate, and I was living in the greater St. Louis area at the time. And I ended up working remotely for a realtor here in Omaha, Nebraska. And what I was learning is, the residential side of real estate, learning more about marketing. I also have a marketing background. And then also, when I was living in St. Louis, I was working for two national real estate investors. So I was almost double dipping in the real estate world and learning the entire industry, as long, doing live events, traveling there, teaching people how to invest in real estate, but also helping clients here in Omaha, Nebraska, make the biggest purchase of their life alongside a licensed realtor. Now, I actually started my own real estate marketing business, kind of, just to piggyback off of that experience. And I've really grown that for the last 3.5 years. I have a solid client base of realtors that I work with. I've worked with property managers, contractors, just really helped being able to like build brands. And then once, they kind of get to a certain level and they're off the ground, they're running, they're getting leads, they're doing everything, then they kind of go off on their own. So I'm really good at, kind of laying the foundation for a business owner and getting them going, launching their business, helping them along the way and doing a lot of those things that, maybe they don't want to do, but I'm there, as a constant to guide them. I actually have been friends with a developer who's been at Horsepower for 4.5 years, and her and I have been friends this year for 12 years.
Wow.
And she had talked to me about Horsepower about 3 years ago. And it just wasn't a good time in my life in order to, kind of make a big transition. I had just fully been off on my own. I wanted to be an entrepreneur for a while, see how I loved that. And, we just kept having conversation after conversation. I was able to talk to our CEO, Tony Hilbert of Horsepower. He is so knowledgeable, so amazing, one of the kindest people. And, I just was really like, what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose in order to, you know, grow something and be a part of something again that, I could really expand and make a difference for the lives of business owners, which has been what I've been doing through my real estate business, through marketing, but this is in a different capacity. And so I am so glad that I ended up accepting the role of a franchise development for Blingle with Horsepower Brands. It's just been a great transition for me. It's been amazing. I love it. I love being able to, talk to candidates and guide them and build that relationship moving forward as they go ahead and make, possibly another big purchase in their life.
Well, excellent. Well, Courtney she is one of the most persuasive women that I know, particularly in franchising. So 3 years of talking to you and being friends for 12 years, I can see how after a while you're like, okay, I will come join. If you love it so much, I want to be part of it too. And then I've known Tony for several years as well. And he's, like you said, just, salt of the earth, very knowledgeable,
Mm-hmm.
wants to make an impact and have Horsepower Brands make an impact, not only on their franchisees, but also the team that works at Horsepower Brands, really invested in the success of you as a newer franchise developer and other folks that work for the brands. So very excited for you. And
Yes,
I,
thank you.
I like how transferable your background is too, because you have that real estate background, and people's biggest investment is usually their house. The second biggest investment, sometimes the first biggest investment, is a business if people decide to become entrepreneurs. So I see
Mm-hmm.
lots of transferable skills that you have in helping people with those large purchases that are life changing for them. Besides who they're going to marry, those are the other two biggies in somebody's life.
Yeah, I feel like I have, quite an advantage from, working in corporate America for so long and then being solely on my own and in charge of my own income. I can really, talk to a candidate about that fear because I've done it. But you know what? Building something from the ground up is so rewarding. I can't even explain it. It's so rewarding to know that you did this, you're successful on your own, you built something, and you don't necessarily have to, go to an office every day or, have three people above you, in like a corporate role. So I'm really able to just talk to candidates about that fear and help them take the leap.
Well, and you've built something from scratch, from the ground up, and that takes a lot of energy, effort, and trying to figure out all of the pieces. And now you're part of a franchise system and helping entrepreneurs make the decision to invest in Blingle, where the entrepreneur is still the business owner. It's their business. They get to set the tone, the direction, create the culture for their particular market. But they already have the infrastructure in place, the technology, marketing, operations plan, the supply chain, where do you get the lights from, et cetera. Tell our listeners a little bit more about Blingle and the support services and what drew you to the brand and why you're so excited to present this brand to candidates interested in lighting.
Yeah, that's just like a great way to move forward on this. So, being a licensed realtor, I've helped people make a huge purchase in their life. Now, being in a franchise development, I'm also helping them make a big decision. Now, being a realtor, I feel like gives me a huge advantage just because of how Blingle resonates with me. I drive by so many different neighborhoods. I've looked at so many houses with my clients. And you know what? None of them had permanent lighting. None of them had landscape lighting. Now, if you're in a new development and you're driving by, I just want you to like think about this. You can do this wherever you live. You go through a new development or a newer development, just want you to take a look at the lights on houses. Are there lights? Are there sconces? Are there, landscape lights? Is any part of the exterior of the house lit up? If not, I want you to ask yourself something. Why would you not spend the extra money to protect your biggest investment? Think about it. If a house is lit up with lights, any sort of, exterior light, that house is going to have a less chance of ever being tampered with because there's light. If you have a Ring camera, which everyone does now, but there's no lights to even show what's on the camera, is the camera even doing it justice? And that's kind of like one of the ways that I, have talked about Blingle with candidates. It's not just holiday lighting. It's landscape lighting, patio lighting, permanent lighting, event lighting. As Laura, you've said, you've dealt with, being an event planner. So there's so many different service lines that you can really do with Blingle. And people don't even understand that, they just think it's holiday lighting. They're attracted to that. Everybody goes crazy, around the holidays and loves to, put Christmas lights on their house or whatever. But with Blingle, you can do so much more. And I just love being able to explain, what other service lines we have to engage with the candidate. I actually talked to a candidate the other day, and it was just so cool. Before we even got on our intro call, he had all of these ideas, and we ended up having the best call. But he was just so excited to learn more. And he didn't know that we had permanent lighting. He didn't know we had, so many different options for landscape lighting. And so for me to look across, my computer screen on Zoom and see his face light up as I'm telling him all of these things, and I'm just seeing light bulbs go off, as I explain more about Blingle, he was just blown away by this opportunity. And so I just feel like, in my role, it's all about educating, candidates about Blingle and moving forward with the process. But really, it's not just holiday lighting, even though that's what's going to attract, most candidates. But really, only about 30% of their revenue for the first year and so on should come from holiday lighting. That other 70% is going to come from your landscape lighting, patio lighting, permanent lighting, and also like just the commercial aspect for Blingle is huge in that aspect.
Yeah, well, and I like your analogy of you saw the light bulb go off in that person's head. How
Yeah,
appropriate
it
is
was
that with Blingle?
awesome.
You
I know,
do you use that with
literally.
all of your candidates?
Yeah, I always say, I can't wait to light it up this
Yes.
year in 2026 for Blingle. So,
Exactly. Well, there's not a lot of national competition in the lighting space either. So,
mm-mm.
what are some of the key differentiators that set Blingle apart and make it a great brand for any of our listeners to consider if they're looking at franchising for themselves?
Yeah, so there's really not that many competitors. And, I encourage you to wherever you live is, Google lighting in your area. Most of them are going to be mom and pop shops, who do this on the side or just do holiday lights. And you know what? They just don't do it full time, where they do it in addition to something else they're already doing. Now, there's not that many companies just focused truly on lighting. So that really gives us a huge advantage. We are strictly lighting for your home, your business, your commercial space, really whatever, your event space we can do. But it really gives us a huge advantage to grow. Along with the technology that we offer our franchisees, I mean, this really makes us cutting edge.
So what? So you're part of Horsepower Brands. What are some of the key support metrics or support services that Horsepower provides to Blingle franchisees that are unique and differentiators to help them do a quick launch in their particular market?
Yeah, we have the best Z services and shared services, in my opinion, but we really do. And a lot of our franchisees do say that, but we really give our franchisees all of the tools that they need to be successful straight from their launch, straight from that signing day. And then give them the tools they need to have a successful launch. We work with them, but we have Z Fleet, Z Recruit, um, Z Benefits, Z Books, Z Marketing. And me coming from a marketing standpoint, also in sales, but our marketing company, our marketing side of Horsepower Brands is really amazing. We set up their Google business page, all of their social networks. We do all of that for them. You get access as a Blingle franchisee to what we call the Blingle Insider. Now, if you wanted to ever make, your own social media posts, there's templates in there, there's flyers. All you have to do is go in there and update it with your phone number, your website, whatever. But just that marketing package alone, even coming from me being an entrepreneur for the last 3.5 years, that's amazing. All of those take forever to set up. I mean, to get your Google business page verified these days is a nightmare. It takes forever. So the fact that some of that stuff is already done for the franchisee, I mean, to me, that saves a huge headache and a huge chunk of time. So that's obviously like one of my favorite shared services just because I come from the marketing background. But Amanda Lawrence from our Z Fleet team is absolutely amazing. She works with our candidates in order to, get them the right vehicle, get it wrapped, get the pricing down. She does all of that with our candidates. Just, we have each brand that we have at Horsepower Brands has a brand team. Our Blingle brand team is absolutely phenomenal. They have helped me so much, step into this new role, but just, as I'm asking questions, but also just showing me what our franchisees have access to and what our brand team really does to support our new franchisees in order to get them launched is truly outstanding.
You touch on a lot of really important things that I think is why franchising is so popular now, too. I mean, a lot of people, I'm sure you understand this yourself. I mean, being an entrepreneur, you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm sure a lot of people don't even know you have to have your Google business verified. It's not just something you can
Mhm.
create and have pop up on Google. So there's a lot of benefits in just kind of that franchise system and having those resources. And I'd love to kind of understand a little bit more about what that ideal first year is for a franchisee from discovery day to hitting that 365th day. Like, what does that experience really look like for your franchisees?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously, from the discovery part, the candidate's going to be on calls with me via Zoom. We're going to talk about the brand, talk about the finance part. We're going to finalize their territory. We're just going to continue that process to make sure that there's no unanswered questions for them. And then what I really want to do is invite them to our in-person discovery day in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, this is such an important part of this process is, the discovery day is not a signing process. It is an in-person day where they can come and learn about all of our Z services, ask a lot of questions, being able to like hang out with all of us for lunch, which is awesome. We get to know our candidates more in person than just through the computer screen. And then we get to do like the brand breakout. But for Blingle, it's really cool because our founding location is in Omaha, Nebraska. So our Blingle candidates actually get a little bit different experience than some of our other candidates. In the fact that we actually get to go to the Blingle warehouse, meet our founder, Mike Marlowe. Our candidates are able to ask tons of questions and really get that one-on-one hands-on experience so they can really figure out what a day in the life is. Now, after Discovery Day, we do, like a post Discovery Day call where I'm able to answer any questions that the candidate still may have. After they end up signing, or if they end up signing, then, they come to Omaha, or depending on where they are located. And if I have a successful franchisee, near them, we can actually travel and go to one of their locations to do a week of in-person training. Now that's really like hands-on, like really figuring out day to day, learning how to install, the landscape lights, the permanent lights, learning all of that part of the job. Then they actually come to Academy, which is another, training that we have in Omaha, Nebraska. At the end of academies, when they get their fleet vehicle for their business. And then during this process, they are working with our marketing team in order how to figure out how to spend their marketing dollars in order to have a successful business launch. So, this could be running ads. This could be, making sure that they're, it could be a lot of things. If they want to do mailers or like an EDDM flyer to certain neighborhoods in their area in order to market them. Some of our franchisees do, depending on time of year, we'll do like a free wreath or like $100 off the install, really whatever they want, until they kind of get their first installation job. Now, a big part of this is also figuring out how they're going to get leads. So our marketing team also works with the franchisee on lead gen and figuring that out. But as a franchisee, we always encourage them to be involved in their community. Maybe this looks like joining a center sphere group, a BNI group. Maybe they're involved in the chamber, but really just word of mouth and also letting them know what that franchisee is doing now. But really, like I said, the first year they're going to have a lot of residential jobs. Maybe they end up doing a lot of homes in their neighborhood with holiday lights, permanent lights, landscape lights, and they could be talking to business owners. Think of like banks, hospitals, event centers, restaurants, bars, all of these other types of businesses. This franchisee could be talking to in order to, get some of those jobs. One really cool thing is that we have a franchisee in the Florida area. And if you've ever been to Florida, everybody has a pool and, most of them are enclosed. So she actually found a huge niche and was able to put permanent lights on all of those pool enclosures. So she did it on hers, and then she ended up doing everyone in her neighborhood. So I encourage, the candidate as I'm talking to them through this discovery process that if, think about what's in their area, what's going on. Do they have festivals? Do they have, a lot of events that come to their city? But think about something cool like that nobody else has touched, that they could grow their first year of business that way too.
That's incredible. I love that Blingle supports like kind of that creativity. It's not just, hey, these are the things that we do, but it's how can you apply it to your neighborhood? And lead generation is probably one of the scarier parts when you're first starting a new territory. I mean, nothing's really been established there. And especially with something like Blingle going against mom and pops, it's like, how do you generate this excitement around something like permanent lights? And having that in a pool enclosure is just so unique. But I can definitely see there being a lot of leads coming in for that franchisee from that area. Do you see a lot of like hesitation or anything that prevents people from wanting to move forward with Blingle, and how do you handle that?
Yeah, like with the candidates that I've talked to so far, I haven't seen a ton of hesitation really. It's more just, what, maybe we need to throw in an extra call to go over, some more of the service lines or go into them in detail. Or maybe I need to connect them with a franchisee that's successful that can kind of talk to them through some of these questions, that maybe me as a developer, I'm not actually, legally able to answer. It could be that the franchise or the candidate just wants, a little bit more validation. So there's really not a ton of hesitation just because Blingle is so unique. And, just being able to talk to them about, the safety feature that it does add to a home or, to a business is huge in that perspective.
Validation is so important. I mean, being able to talk to other franchise owners is definitely going to help people feel more secure. And I think one of the big benefits of Blingle is being part of the larger horsepower brands ecosystem too. How do you
Mhm.
talk to your prospects about kind of what horsepower brands brings to the table too, even outside of just the Blingle universe?
Yeah. So, kind of the way that I have approached it recently is just talking about, how we have an amazing founder, our amazing leadership that we have with horsepower, and then really just hitting on, the shared services that we offer to our franchisees and how a lot of other franchisors that I've heard, don't offer a ton of support like that. Also, a huge advantage is that, a lot of our brands do not require a brick and mortar store. And so I feel like that makes horsepower also, more attractive to franchisees because, a lot of times they can just run the business out of their home. But really, just the support that they are going to get from being a part of the horsepower family is huge. Plus, the technology that we are able to offer to our franchisees is amazing. I'll give you an example. So before one of our Blingle candidates became a franchisee, he received a hand-drawn quote. And Laura, I think that you've seen this
I did, yes.
before.
It was
But
crazy.
it is, yeah. I mean, the drawing was really good, but
Hmm.
it is a hand-drawn quote with, the lights and the wreaths on the house. Um, but that obviously like took the salesman so long to create, right? So with our technology that we give our franchisees, I mean, they're first of all, they have a huge advantage, especially with Blingle because most of them are mom and pop shops. They're not going to be able to spend, a majority of their money on technology to be more successful in their business. But with Blingle, the technology is honestly hands down, it's amazing. We're able to take a picture of the home,
Hmm.
figure out the dimensions, put the lights up, show the homeowner, and sell the job right there. So the salesperson is not going back to the homeowner, trying to schedule that appointment again and sell the job. They can actually do all of it right there on the spot. Another one that I like love that we haven't talked about yet is this AI sales technology that we have access to called Rilla. And what it is it is, a technology that we're able to like kind of turn on with the sales, obviously with the client's consent. But it's basically just an AI automated sales coaching app in order to make that salesperson better. Now I don't know any mom and pop shops that have that, but with that technology, and just being a part of horsepower, think about what that's going to do to your close rate. Think about what that can do to your yearly revenue. So just really, selling the support, selling the technology, that a lot of things are already set up for you. So that obviously takes time out of, or it takes time off of you as the franchisee in order for us to set up, your social media and do all of that. That gives the franchisee more time to be out there talking to people and growing their business.
Yeah, well, and I've seen your technology in person, both the Rilla and how that helps coach the sales team and also helps the sales director or general manager coach the sales team to convert more sales and make more money for the salesperson. But I also love the visualizer tool. So if you are visiting with a homeowner and they have a certain budget in mind, you can put the lights up around the house in this visualizer, put wreaths on the eaves, you can move things around, do uplighting of the trees, do all sorts of different creative holiday lights, and people can see it on a screen. Most of us are visual people in making decisions.
Yes.
And so if I can see how beautiful my house is, all lit up in green and red lights versus white lights with 3 wreaths or 1 wreath or Rudolph on the roof, I'm going to be like, I want that one. It makes it so much easier than that handwritten drawing that you showed me that, again, it was very well done, but yeah, we're not drafting on drawing paper these days. And
Nobody has time for that.
no, exactly. Well, and then you can send the quote with the visualizer to the homeowner and they can talk it over and see if they want to make any additions or changes before the install happens. And then
Yep.
Blingle will also come down and take the lights down. So I know in my neighborhood, a lot of people, they're standing on their ladders, taking their lights down and then have to figure out where to store them. Well,
Yep.
you store those and then that's recurring revenue for next year because I think I heard something like 92% of homeowners will have you back and do their lights again next year, and usually there'll be an upsell. You'll get them done earlier. You'll add maybe another wreath or two or some other lights, and the neighbors will all be talking like, how come your lights were so easy to come down, George? So,
Yes,
uh,
yeah, no, that's Laura, that's a huge point, that we do talk through with our candidates, basically when we're talking about like revenue and what that really looks like is yes, that first year they're going to have maybe a little bit more inventory cost because we're basically like renting the holiday lights to the client. Now the next year you don't even have that inventory cost for your client, so your margin is going to be much higher on that. So think about if you have 30 to 40 homes that you end up doing your first year just for holiday lights, think about what that's going to do for your revenue for next year. It's just huge. Um, but one thing I do want to say in regards to that is yes, taking down holiday lights sometimes can be kind of sad for the homeowner, like the holidays are supposed to be so
mhm.
happy and everybody's in a good mood and happy, with seeing all the lights. And that gives our Blingle franchisees such an advantage to upsell them permanent lighting. So then that client of theirs is going to have lights on their home the entire year round. Now, the coolest thing about that is those lights can be controlled by an app on your phone. Just like everything else these days, there's an app for it. So the homeowner is actually able to, after the lights are installed, they're able to control the color of the lights from their phone. Now, if they want, to do pink and white and red for Valentine's Day, they can do that. If they want to do green for St. Patty's Day, they want to have the colors for, their favorite NBA team playing, or maybe somebody's going to have a baby and they want to do pink or blue lights on their home. Or they can just do, like that soft white and just, have it be classic year round. But that's just a huge advantage. Lighting has become such an emotional thing. And, people just don't really get excited to take down their lights after the holidays.
Right. Yes. I love my lights and I have lots of lights in my house, but yeah, taking them down outside is a bit emotional because you're putting them all away and it's like, oh, I'm not going to see you again until next December. But having those up year round, I have some neighbors that have some of those permanent lights on their homes and it just
Mhm.
makes the whole neighborhood brighter and cheerier throughout the year. I really enjoy them. So, what's the profile of an ideal franchisee for Blingle? And you've mentioned a couple of examples, but maybe you could share another example of a great franchisee and what has helped with their success.
Yeah, so the ideal franchisee that we're looking for is, somebody who's outgoing, somebody who's probably data driven, involved in their community, or, has a desire to be involved in their community, somebody who really wants to make an impact. Um, I mean, honestly, like a lot of our Blingle franchisees I have talked to they're all different in their own way, but they are all amazing people. One of them that I do talk to on a regular basis, he's very down to earth. He kind of has run it as a family business. And so, maybe somebody who's truly looking to leave a legacy in their family, whether they're, maybe not start it as a family business, but get started on their own, maybe have their spouse involved, and then maybe when their kids get older, being able to bring them into the business. So, I mean, ideally, somebody who's, you know, like I said, data driven, creative, involved in their community. And then, some people are from corporate America and looking to do something completely different. So they're able to, possibly travel more or enjoy, more of their life. But we do have quite a few franchisees who are really, looking to leave a legacy for their family and pass the business down to their children.
We definitely get a lot of those candidates too. I'm curious, what is one piece of advice that you would give those people that want to either leave a legacy or have that financial freedom or get out of corporate America, regardless of the candidate? What's something you want to leave with them?
I just kind of have to speak from experience on that. I guess I would just say that, you know, it's it's it just hits you different when you build something on your own from scratch. And the cool thing is that being a Blingle franchisee, it's not necessarily from scratch. We give you all the tools to be successful, but putting in the work means so much more. I can't explain the feeling, um, but it's just so much more rewarding. And so I kind of just have played that, with a couple candidates so far who, maybe have the fear of leaving their corporate job and and doing something different, but just the feeling that they will have, building something from scratch. And, that's really just like my best piece of advice.
And what's your favorite part of the job, Jessica?
Well, Laura, I've actually really figured out this development thing. It's exactly like real estate. It's exactly like being a realtor. Um, Except, I'm showing the business. I'm not showing the house, but I get to show it in person when they come for discovery day. So the fact that I figured out the job, um, is hands down. It was like so many light bulbs went off that day. I'll never forget it, but I was so excited. But one, just really talking to candidates, building the relationship with them, getting to know them, being able to relate to them. My whole career has been based on building relationships. And that also gives me a huge advantage in this industry, being able to relate to candidates, talk to them, figure out what their fears are and address them. But then also really just learning more about horsepower. Honestly, I didn't do a ton of research before joining the company. I just really trusted Courtney. I've known her for so long, but also just like talking to the owner, talking to Tony, having these conversations and really just putting my faith in somebody who I know is not going to let me down, and working with her and learning from her. She's had so much success the last 4 years, and I have seen it, on social media. I've seen it on LinkedIn. Um, I also, I've talked to some of my friends, and they've known people that have worked at Horsepower in the past, and everybody's said really good things. But honestly, just being a part of bigger than something than myself has been really awesome. I didn't know if I was going to love going back to, kind of like a regular job from, I was working probably like 50 hours a week, and, I'm still working 50 hours a week, but I'm doing, real estate on the weekends here and there if my clients need me. But it's just been such a great transition for me. And I am like thankful at the end of every day that I did take the leap and decided to do something a little bit different. But I love helping people and educating them, being able to just really ensure them that they have all the information needed in order to make, another big decision in their life.
It's so fun that your relationship with your friend is how you got into it. I mean, I've not been doing this that long either. I've only been doing it for a year. And the relationships I've heard, not even just in our experience here, but in everybody that we talk to, it's the relationships that keep people in franchising for
Mhm.
decades. Like people really get into it and they never leave. So it's fun to kind of be at the start of your journey too, and to hear that the relationships are also what brought you here to franchising as well. So
Yeah, thanks, Kate. It's been amazing.
and for our listeners, if your light bulbs are going off and Blingle is a really great opportunity for you, please reach out to us at mintfranchiseconsultants.com. We would love to introduce you to Jessica and kind of explore the opportunity with you.
Thanks so much for being on the Powered by Franchising podcast, Jessica. Anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we wrap up today?
No, that's it. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it's been a delight getting to know you in person in Omaha, Nebraska last year. And then we both look forward to presenting Blingle as an opportunity for our listeners and our candidates in 2026 and beyond. Love horsepower brands, like the lighted up elements of Blingle and the ability to create that legacy for families is really, really important. So again, if any of our listeners want to learn more about Blingle or any of the other horsepower brands, you can find us at mintfranchiseconsultants.com, and we'd be happy to do a territory check, make sure it's available, and learn more about your interests in business ownership. Thanks for tuning in.